If you have something to sell in the electoral district of Fleetwood-Port Kells, chances are you'll come to see the people at Red FM.
Pride Trucks Limited वाले को use the नमे trucks trailer the reefers the बहुत बड़ी inventory है.
Whether you're selling trucks or political ideas, Red FM and other similar radio stations reach a group of people you can't ignore. Ken Hardy is selling himself and the Liberal Party today, and you can't see him, but Federal Cabinet Minister and Calgary Conservative Jason Kenney is here too, on the telephone, waiting for his turn to go on the air.
National Defence, the Minister Jason Kenney.
RED stands for Reflecting Ethnic Diversity, and there are few ridings in Canada that are more diverse than Fleetwood-Port Kells. Almost any issue concerning immigration or refugees resonates here.
You know, our government, since coming to office in 2006, has welcomed 240,000 refugees as permanent residents. We welcome 1 out of every 10 refugees who are resettled worldwide, more than any other country per capita. We contribute $65 million a year to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. We are their 7th largest donor.
Jason Kenney is publicly defending government policy on air today, but the riding's incumbent MP is not. Conservative Nina Grewal's low profile is one reason her opponents believe this riding is up for grabs. Fleetwood-Port Kells is part of the city of Surrey, a sprawling municipality south of Vancouver, just on the other side of the Fraser River. Surrey is one of the fastest growing municipalities in Canada. About 500,000 people live here. About a quarter of them live in Fleetwood-Port Kells. Like any area that grows quickly, this city has a problem with things like overcrowded schools, infrastructure, lack of transit, and crime, particularly gang-related crime. Politically, any party that wants to form government has to win seats in places like this.
We are going to bring that orange wave all the way from East Vancouver over to Surrey.
New Democrats have come second here in the past 2 elections, even though the Conservatives increased their popular vote here both times. The rally to open this Fleetwood-Port Kells campaign office was attended by a who's who of local NDP politicians.
So I am so very happy to be here to kick off this campaign. We have a fantastic candidate who is going to be your strong voice in Ottawa, who's going to engage with the people in this community. And she is not going to be afraid to talk to people. He's not going to be afraid to answer questions. He will be there every single day. And he is the guy who's been fighting crime. He's the guy who will bring that strong leadership to Ottawa. And he is the guy that is going to be your next MP for Surrey-Port Kells.
This crowd today is a reflection of what I'm hearing and seeing every day as I go around the neighborhood, and that is that it is time for change. It's time for a change in this riding, and it's time for a change in this country. It's time that we elected for the first time in this country a social democratic government. As most of you will know, for 38.5 years I was a proud member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and I spent much of that time here in Surrey. This community is a community that is very close to my heart. We all know the challenges that are faced every day here in Surrey. We hear and see of rampant gun violence. We see and hear of crime in the streets. And what is the answer of the Conservative government? What is the answer of the MP of this riding, Nina Grewal? The answer, unfortunately, is silence. I heard today, it's a great line, that Nina has a degree in political silence.
Okay, so we're going to go down to, is it 160th and 82nd? We're going to be covering another poll. And there'll be a couple of things happening. Of course, we want to obviously knock on doors, introduce ourselves, make sure they know who the Liberal candidate is. And the Liberal candidate will be along to chat with the individuals that come out to chat with us. The other thing that I'll be doing as we go forward is I'm required to get signatures on Elections Canada material, which I then file with them to officially get my name on the ballot. So we did really well day before yesterday, getting a bunch of signatures, and we're going to get pretty close to over the top, I think, today on that. So be friendly, be nice to the customers, and we'll go away. Now, Jeff, we did a slightly different approach the other day than just, groups of two going knocking on doors. Are we going to do the same thing this time?
I think we're going to do the same thing. It works really well. The group of us will go down, and we're going to leapfrog over each other along the street. When a door opens, Ken can go up to the door and chat with the person at the door.
The Liberals believe Ken Hardy can help make them competitive again. He has some name recognition, and he's a good communicator. Also, many people around here associate the Trudeau name with a liberal immigration policy.
So if the Liberal Party is a party of immigration, in this riding, why did you come in third in the last election?
I think that there is a lot of functions there. I don't think that as a local organization, we were terribly well set up for that election. We didn't have a candidate really until well into the writ. It's different this time.
There have been some divisions in the Liberal Party in this riding as well. Have those been sorted out?
I believe so. Whatever they were, I'm not aware of them. Here's the thing. I come into this as a new guy with a lot of experience. I live here. I'm the only candidate that actually lives in the community. So, I'm talking to my neighbors. I'm talking to people in the community. My dog and I walk all over the place. I have a lot of time for the people like Bilal Chima, who stepped forward and basically said this liberal organization has to be stronger. And he took it. He just took it by the reins and has built it up, so that when I step in as candidate, I've actually got a pretty good foundation to run on. And certainly, in terms of the fundraising, which is, always going to be a bit of a challenge, but the local support, and especially the reception that we're getting on the phones and at the doorstep, we're here, we're a player, and we're in it to win it.
Nina Grewal is the candidate who's defending this riding for the Conservatives. She has a reputation for avoiding the media, but in this case, her campaign manager said she would have talked to us if she wasn't recovering from multiple rounds of oral surgery. Still, we dropped by her office to see if she'd changed her mind.
I've been hoping to catch up with Nina.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if she's going to be here today?
She's at home. Perhaps she has...
Or her knee?
Knee.
I understand she had some problems with her mouth as well.
Now she's right.
She's okay now?
Now she is okay, but her knee is...
It's her knee that's bothering her.
Swelling.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
The Greywalls have been active politically around here for years. Nina Grewal has represented Fleetwood-Port Kells for more than a decade. Her husband sat as a Conservative MP in Surrey, and this year, both her husband and her son decided to seek Conservative nominations in nearby ridings. They both withdrew from the race after some controversy, reportedly at the request of the party.
Nina Grewal, the Conservative incumbent, is an invisible person. She doesn't live in the riding. We seldom see her. She seldom speaks up either in committee or in the House of Commons. She's really not very closely connected to the majority of people here in this riding. The material that we do get her is the stuff that the Prime Minister's office prepares for her and sends out in a mailer 2 or 3 times a year. That's really not good enough. It's not good enough for...
It's worked for her so far.
Well, it has, and I think that, it's interesting when you disassemble what's been going on here. I think that when the Conservatives got their first minority government and then moved to a majority government, there was an attitude, hey, let's give these guys a chance, right? And so to do that, you had to vote for Nina Grewal. Well, they've had their chance. They've had their chance, and in my humble opinion and in the opinion of many, they booted it big time. So now it's time to shift away from things that aren't working very well to something that really has demonstrated it can work, and that's our program.
Hello there, I'm Gary Begg. I'm a candidate in the upcoming federal election on October 19th. How are you today?
Good.
Do you normally vote in the election? Yeah. I'm running for the New Democratic Party. I was a policeman here for 38 and a half years.
Oh, nice.
Not all of them in Surrey, but the last about 10 years here in Surrey.
All right.
So I think I know some of the issues that are going on in the neighborhood. Do you know who your MP is here in this riding?
I just moved in here.
Yeah, you're in.
I just moved in here.
Yeah, you're in Fleetwood-Port Kells.
Yeah.
Right. So on October 19th is the general election. Anything that concerns you particularly about this area besides the crime and?
It's the main point of the crime here.
The main point. Well, I have some experience in fighting crime. So, have you voted for the NDP in the past?
Every year they lost.
You voted every year.
Every year we lost.
Yeah.
Well, every year.
Hopefully this is the year you vote and we win.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you.
We're mostly NDP supporter.
Awesome. I appreciate your support. How many voters in your house? Two.
Me and wife.
Well, I'll count on you for your support on October 19th, and actually we'll phone you on that day just to make sure you show up to vote.
Well, for sure.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
So one of the local issues, the main local issue perhaps, is the crime.
Yes.
And Gary Begg is a former Mountie. Would he not be better equipped to handle an issue like crime than you?
Well, certainly, I have all the time in the world for people like Gary. I too worked with the police in actually two stages. I worked with the Vancouver Police for a period of time, but we also had the transit police at TransLink, the Regional Transportation Authority. And I think whereas Gary's experience is very, very deep in one area, mine is broader. This isn't just about policing in Fleetwood-Port Kells or in Surrey. I think we need a more comprehensive approach, something that's evidence-based, something where we actually dig into the roots of why we have the crime levels we do, which is mainly gang-related, and it's drug-related.
Putting more cops on the streets.
Well, it's not just putting more cops on the streets, and unfortunately I think Mr. Begg's leader has let him down, because I don't think he'll be able to afford to put the police on the streets that he's promised to do, because there's depending on whose calculation to look at, there's a $28 billion hole in Mr. Mulcair's plan. So something's got to give.
Richard Hossain, we sit down for a warm drink on a cool morning, and you order a green tea. Now that is commitment to a cause.
It is, yeah.
You're the Green candidate. Why should a voter in Fleetwood-Port Kells vote for you?
Well, unlike some of the other parties, the Green Party doesn't subscribe to a party whip. So my number one priority is to represent the constituents, and I'm able to do that with the Green Party and not toe the party line.
Richard Hossain admits he doesn't expect to win Fleetwood-Port Kells for the Green Party, but he says that's not the point.
I've always been politically engaged without being politically engaged. I guess just being aware of issues and whatnot. But I think what really got me involved was moving back here to BC and seeing what was happening with resource extraction. And
you're going door knocking, say. You knock on a door and give me your pitch.
Basically, my name's Richard Hossain. I'm running in this riding Fleetwood-Port Kells. I want to foremost represent you, the constituent. The Green Party doesn't have to toe the party line, so I don't need to listen to the superiors in the party. I can actually speak on behalf of the constituents and represent them in a meaningful way.
Do you think that will resonate with people?
I think it will. People are looking for change. I mean, it's clear looking at the polls and the general attitude towards the government over these last few years. And I think people are interested in hearing that a politician could actually represent their interests instead of partisan interests. And I've consistently seen members of particular parties vote against their own principles and vote against their constituents' interests just because the party whip system is instituted in their parties. And I can guarantee that won't happen with a Green MP.
You can never predict the results of an election, but the makeup of this riding suggests national themes will dominate the campaign here. Shachi Curl is with the Angus Reid Institute.
In the same way that the parties are concerned about and really looking to ridings in that ring around Montreal, ridings in that ring around Greater Toronto, it's the same thing. That's where young families are going to raise their kids. It's the only place they can afford to live. It is where there are schools for their children. And so what you find is a very middle-class demographic, a demographic that is tends to skew sort of middle-aged to younger, tends to have more kids, and tends to be the kind of people that can provide fertile voting ground for either the Conservative Party, who have focused very much on tax cuts, income splitting, tax breaks for participating in sports and doing all kinds of, very, very niche. I mean, it's all about niche marketing. Again, demographics play a big role, and ethnic demographics play a big role in any urban center. So not unlike the story, again, of Greater Toronto or even around the center of Montreal, what you will find are newer Canadians, again, families who are living in extended family units. And so, again, this is an area where local politics, who the candidate is, where your roots in the community flow, those are important issues, too.
When I take my dog for a walk, if we time it right and dinner is cooking, there's so many times you want to knock at the door of somebody's house because there's a curry going on that just, it's almost irresistible.
Oh, it's very nice to meet you. Thank you for showing up.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, and thank you, Mabel, for doing that.
Nice
Take
to
care.
see you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello. Hey, some familiar faces I haven't seen in a while. How are you? Good to see you. Good to see you. What's going on at the Temple these days?
Greg Beer's running for president.
Oh, good. I knew there was an election going on. Yeah.
Right. Tomorrow the big festival of 35,000 people. He's
I'm
the executive.
He's senior vice
president right now.
I'm going to be there tomorrow between 3 and 6. I think you want me there, right? Yeah, big sports day and
35,000 people were gathering on that.
Oh, good. Yeah. All of them NDP supporters.
Also, we will worship for the God.
I don't know NDP, but all your support.
Awesome.
We wish you have to win.
Oh, I appreciate that very much.
We pray to God.
So do I. Yeah, we need all the support we can get. So that's very nice. Yeah. Good.
We need to go to people in the market.
Yeah, and thank you for coming today. It's I appreciate your support.
No problem.
Yeah.
That's my pleasure.
ਜੇਸਨ ਕੈਨੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਸਨ ਤੇ ਕੈਨ ਹਾਰਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਦੇ ਉਮੀਦਵਾਰ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਹਨ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਹਾਰਡੀ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਗੁੱਡ ਮਾਰਨਿੰਗ Thank you very much for coming to the studio. So why do you think people should vote for you?
Well, I think that first of all, if I was to sum up my role as an MP, and this isn't false praise, I would want to proceed on the basis that Red FM proceeds on. Close to the community, connecting people with information and services they need, looking for the facts, reporting the news. In my radio days, we did the same thing. As a person who worked at ICBC and at TransLink, I spent an awful lot of the time that I wasn't on programs like this, helping people out, individuals who had issues, had problems. That was the most enjoyable aspect of the work that I did. But I think as well, Fleetwood-Port Kells really deserves better representation than they've had. You know, we have an incumbent who's been basically invisible to most of the riding. The communication you get from them is something that's been prepackaged by the Prime Minister's office and really doesn't speak to the issues in Fleetwood-Port Kells. So it becomes a matter that our MP to date has been Ottawa's voice in the riding, but I don't think we've had a very effective voice for the riding in Ottawa, and that's what I'm running to change.
Why did you decide after being a policeman for 38 years that you wanted to get into politics?
Well, police work, surprisingly enough, is public service, right, as is politics. So for me, it's just a continuation of an opportunity for me to serve the public in a slightly different venue.
Was there any frustration behind it? I mean...
No, absolutely not. I had a very productive and lengthy career in the Mounted Police. It was an occupation that I loved. But at 38 years, it's time to go, and was time for me to go.
As I mentioned before, I ran in the provincial elections in the riding just south of there, or sort of south, in Green Timbers. And
enjoyed that experience?
Yeah, it was great. It was great. It was the first time I've run in an election on that level. I received a lot of support from friends, colleagues, and family, and encouraged me to kind of get involved in the federal level. I'm also quite involved with a nonprofit organization that we started back in 2013, and the mandate there is broadly scoped at social justice and environmental justice, and I think that falls in with my involvement politically as well.
Have you given much thought to the election yet?
Yeah, I usually vote NDP.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got a young family, you might want to have at least a look at the Liberal platform, because we do have a much better child benefit, and we're also the only ones that are actually going to cut income taxes for that part of your income between $45,000 and $90,000.
Yeah.
So there'll be more money on your table to deal with our program. But liberal.ca, just have a look and see.
Yeah, we'll do.
Excellent.
All right, no problem.
Thanks a bunch.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one, guys.
Hello there.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
I'm Gary Begg. I'm a candidate in the upcoming federal election.
Oh.
How are you today?
Good.
Have you heard of me?
No.
No. Do you vote in the election?
Actually, not yet.
You haven't voted yet?
Yeah, I guess we're not citizen yet.
Just became a citizen?
Not yet. I'm planning to.
You're planning to become a citizen. I'll just read you, leave you some material to read.
Okay.
Even though you can't vote, I'm one of the candidates for the federal New Democratic Party in the election that's coming up. Yeah. So when you're able to vote, it would be a good. That would be great.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Been paying any attention to the election campaign?
Not really, no, not yet. Anyway, a little early.
Do you expect to start getting engaged?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Canada is already be more generosity, right? But we can't do all of them. Let's need the whole world, right? Then do all contribution for the refugee. It's not one thing for Canada; it's for all the country. Other countries should do something compared to Canada.
Have you decided who you might vote for?
Yeah, of course.
Can I ask you who you're going to vote for?
I think the conservation do good. Conservative do good.
In this riding, we have very few people to vote for.
Yeah. So are you going to vote at all?
Oh, we will vote. Never have not have voted, but it's difficult.
Yeah. What's going to make it? How are you going to decide?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Thank you. Does anybody get into your cab and start complaining about politicians?
Yeah, they said always they're lying. Too much lying.
Do you think it's going to have an impact on how people vote?
When they said who is better, they said all equal.
This is Ken Hardy, who's the Liberal.
Hi, how are you?
Good to meet you.
I understand you're now my favorite.
No, my wife, she cracks the whip, I follow.
Oh, well, you know what? It kind of works the same in my house, too. Well, I'm glad of that, because, I think we've got a good program. I think that we also are going to offer quite a difference to the member that we've had for a while. So hopefully we get that message out to enough folks. We'll get them out to vote, and it's all good.
Good.
I need a favor from you, though, and if your wife is at home, too.
No.
She's not, okay.
She's out, and she's been, I was NDP for years. She's a Liberal proponent, but...
Uh-huh. Well, you know what? You're in the family.
I'll put her name off if you want, or...
No, she needs to sign. She needs to sign, but your name will be just fine. Thank you.
Is the fear of crime unrealistic in this riding?
Yeah, it's hard for me to quantify, of course, what people actually feel about the state, but I think with any increase in crime comes increased reporting of crime, because it's a sensational act. And with the increase in reporting comes that fear that people have in their homes, that they're in greater danger because of what may be events that are localized in one or two areas. It's always a problem for the police, and it's one that I encountered all of my service, right? The fear of crime is the responsibility of the police, in the sense that I have always believed that police are responsible for crime and the fear of crime, and usually the rate of crime is less than the fear. In this case, because of some particularly spectacular and violent offenses, the fear is heightened in this community.
Before the election was called, Nina Grewal announced more than $1 million worth of community development projects here, and the Prime Minister was also here earlier this year promising more RCMP officers for Surrey.
Mr. Speaker, the people of Surrey are demanding action. Gang violence is threatening the safety of law-abiding Canadians, and we cannot stand aside while this violence goes on. Just last Sunday, there was another senseless shooting, leaving residents of the area exposed to the drug war that is going on. Can the Minister of Public Safety please update this House on what is being done to ensure our communities are safe?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the member not only for a question, for outstanding work, Mr. Speaker, in Surrey, for making the community safer, working with leaders of the community, Mr. Speaker. That's why, Mr. Speaker, I'm proud to confirm that we are providing 100 more RCMP officers as requested by the government.
You want to kick out the Conservatives. Are you concerned at all about the idea that you split the vote?
Yes. Yeah, I think you have to be. And really what we see in this riding is a large number of undecideds. And what the national polls tell us is that there's also quite a shift possible. A good number of Liberals could vote NDP, and a good number of NDP could vote Liberals. A lot of it will depend on the actual platforms, and this is where I think we've got it.
The Conservatives shouldn't be underestimated in Fleetwood-Port Kells, and a redistributed riding isn't expected to change things too much if you base voting patterns on the 2011 campaign. But there are issues that give Grewal's opponents hope, and one of them is immigration.
What's the second most important issue here if crime is number one?
Well, you know, Surrey is known to be have a big immigrant population. I think with some of the movements in immigration policy, more specifically Bill C-24, has kind of undermined what Canadian citizenship means to people here by creating a two-tiered citizenship program. I don't think Canadians want to be categorized in a multi-tiered citizenship regime. A Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian, in my perspective, and I think most perspective of Canadians.
Bill 24, that will create two-tier Canadians. What is wrong with this picture? How is it possible that we could have two-tier Canadians in our community? Why is it that some Canadians will have more rights than that of others? And that is just wrong.
Mr. Kenney, anything else you would like to say in closing?
One thing, Mr. Tim, very quickly, there have been some misunderstandings about a Bill C-24, which is the new Citizenship Act. Some opposition parties are falsely claiming in a fear campaign that it makes the citizenship of immigrants to Canada conditional, and that the government might start revoking citizenship. I want to correct the record on this. That is complete nonsense.
It may or may not be complete nonsense, but it's the kind of political issue that can swing votes in ridings like Fleetwood-Port Kells.